Hello and welcome to the UMary Coaches Show. I'm Dan Daugherty, the voice of the Marauders, and this week we are talking to the head coach of UMary Soccer, Sarah Cook. It's been a great season for the soccer team so far. They are ranked in the region and have a conference record of 6-2-3 and are fighting for a potential home game in the conference playoffs. They are led by Sarah Cook, who's in her 12th year coaching the team. She was a former 3-time All-American at UMary and is a UMary Hall of Famer as well. So we talked with her about the intricacies of coaching a soccer team with high expectations and much more. So without further ado, here is Coach Sarah Cook. Joining us now on the Coaches Show is the head coach of UMary Soccer, Sarah Cook. And Sarah, you were a 3-time All-American here as a player, and I want to go even further back before that. What was the time where you realized on the soccer field, because a lot of kids play soccer, that I can do this at a collegiate level?
Sure. Yeah, I actually injured myself pretty significantly when I was a freshman in high school. I tore my ACL, which was kind of like an unheard injury at the time because it feels like it was 100 years ago now. And during that time, I was a multi-sport athlete, loved basketball, loved track, loved, soccer. And I had to miss out on my high school season that year, and I think that's kind of where my love and infatuation of the game continued to develop because I watched more, had to watch my teammates obviously play that year, and just really missed it. So my recovery process was really focused on the game there, and kind of continued, sophomore, junior, senior year. And I luckily played at a high school where Brock Thompson, who was actually my collegiate coach here at the University of Mary, kind of like helped guide me into that area of the college soccer path, and had a lot of confidence and belief in me. And he was my high school coach my junior and senior year, and continued here into college my first 3 years here as well. So that's kind of how I got to where I was in the game.
So is that experience of, watching the game from the sideline injured, did that, open your mind to potentially coaching eventually, or, that experience, how did that benefit you?
Yeah, honestly, I have to really credit Coach Thompson as well for starting to think about coaching. When I was here at the University of Mary, I was a little at a loss in terms of what I wanted to major in. I really loved sciences. The thought of being in school for a really long time wasn't appealing. I loved playing soccer and I loved studying science. So he kind of helped direct me into the avenue of teaching, education, and I added biology with that, and then started into coaching. And Coach Thompson actually, invited me to start coaching at my alma mater, Century High School, with some junior varsity teams and doing coaching education. And in college, I kind of flourished into my coaching education, going all the way to my USSF A license, and just loving that development learning of the game, and took on some club teams and some youth club teams and some older club teams, and just really enjoyed that part in addition to teaching. At Century High School, I got the opportunity to coach the varsity group there as well. And then Coach Levi Evans, who was here at the University of Mary prior to me, and also my coach my senior year, invited me to kind of be a volunteer assistant when I was teaching in the local high school. So that's kind of where it developed. So I definitely credit Brock for kind of guiding me into that direction, because it became a love, and that fix of being a player to what do you do afterwards when you have exhausted your eligibility but still want to be a part of the game.
So being, a local here, was UMary an easy choice to continue your education and playing career?
Oh, I definitely was a high schooler that said that I'm not going to stay in Bismarck for sure. And I was a late decider to come out here to the University of Mary. And again, Coach Thompson is the reason probably why I ended up coming out here at UMary. Having that injury, and spring soccer for North Dakota, girls soccer for North Dakota is in the spring. So my junior year and my senior year were obviously late time frames to be recruited. And so, he really believed in me and my potential. And I don't know, like, I became the player that I did in college. I would say credit a lot to him, but just because I became more dedicated to the game and the study of the game, and part of that had to deal with my love for coaching and analyzing more.
And what are the differences between being a team captain as a player to coaching a team?
Just managing your personnel differently, right? So as a team captain, you are listening more to obviously the players' needs and interpreting that to the staff in a way that makes sure that everyone's heard, but you're also helping appease your teammates and keep culture and vibe in a strong way. I think in terms of coaching, you are managing team leaders to help develop that culture, and probably you're not in as much of the know that you would be as a captain, but you are spearheading and trying to create an environment that they can create on their own. So quite a bit of a difference for sure, but I've loved the aspect of kind of that female empowerment, development of the whole student or scholar athlete, and then also life beyond the game and what the game is bringing them and teaching them for them to fulfill their next pathway. So.
And I like asking these questions about differences. You were a great coach at Century High School, but what are the differences between coaching high schoolers and coaching collegiate athletes?
Yeah, there's some subtle differences, but ultimately, you're playing in high school to develop, traits that will contribute to your overall, personality and well-being as a human. And I think the same is true in collegiate sports. It's just that you're doing it at a whole nother, dedication, level. And then you're also incorporating, a bunch of women from a lot of different places. You're living on your own, growing up from an 18 to, nowadays seeing 25-year-olds, on your team. So it's a different spectrum of life that you're dealing with, from 14 to 18-year-olds to 18 to 25-year-olds. So just that maturation and kind of developing on what their next path is.
And as far as this year's team goes for the Marauders, last year was an up and down season that ended with a heck of a run in the postseason to get to the conference championship game. So how did that change the expectations of the program?
Yeah, I mean, last year we were so young. We were such a young team, having one senior on the roster. So it did take a while for us to figure out, what's our identity? Who are we? Matches were pretty close, but weren't always going in our favor. So it also took some culture building in the middle of the season to fixate and formulate, that first and foremost. And so once we started finding a run in terms of kind of the win streak that we had later on in the year, obviously confidence built from that, and taking the opportunity to be in the Northern Sun Conference tournament of you get in, you have a chance to win it. And I think that's always been the identity of University of Mary women's soccer. If you even look at the 2006 and 2007 NSIC championship teams, they were never ranked high. They always had the belief of we get in, we fight for the opportunity to win it. And so, I think that's the mentality that we had last year, and they reaped the rewards of it. And then when you come into the next year, we have a lot of experience from that group that earned that that placement. And so there's a little bit more expectation on the shoulders, a little bit more drive to be able to achieve more than you did the year before, but you still have to take everything one game at a time, because although we return a lot of that experience, the league is different, all the teams are different, the travel schedule is different, so it's not apples to apples that we're comparing, and certainly something that we're still working to achieve, but need to do so one game at a time.
So then, in that transition phase from last year to this year, you have a team that the core is the same, but then you want to add a couple of talented players. You got two really talented transfers in Allison and Rachel. But so how do you play with the thought of, I want to add more, but also this team knows how to play together and the chemistry's there and it's set. So what do you do with that as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, ironically, we do have a lot of the same personalities, but some of them are also playing in different positional roles. So even Mo Malone, who captained us last year and this year, last year she played primarily an outside back role, and this year more of a center back role. And I think what we needed to figure out first and foremost is, what are the needs of this year's group, Team 30? What are the needs in terms of leadership and where we position that on the field? And then the additions of our incoming freshmen and our transfers have just greatly increased the depth of our overall roster, making every day a challenging experience, meaning training and making those decisions. So that rotation and balance has also been a dynamic that we're learning to figure out of, how long do you play with this group together? Because we have talented players also in our game-changing substitutions that we could also utilize. So I think that process is, still always formulating every week, and that's what's also is different from the year prior.
Yeah, depth absolutely is the strength of this team. So that's one thing I wanted to ask about is, how do you determine when's the right time to get fresh legs versus, this group might just have their breakthrough soon?
100%. Yeah, the depth has been both how do I say this, a blessing, but also, that coaches struggle of the right timing to do it. I think where we're emphasizing is being more athletic up top, pressing harder and faster and higher up the pitch. And to be able to do that, you have to be able to rotate. So it's finding that substitution pattern in the first half versus the second half, because the rules in NCAA are different for each, of how we can maintain that. And I think that we're lucky enough to be able to change out our front line quite a bit more than we have in years past, so that we can kind of maintain that high press game format and not lose anything or change anything as substitutions go into the game.
Great. And I mean, a lot of these games this season have been intense, close, determined by late goals. So, I mean, I'm just in the broadcast booth, and I'm on the edge of my seat. And I don't know how it's like down there, but how do you manage to keep the team, level-headed and not getting ahead of themselves?
Yeah, I think where I believe the most in our group is in terms of our overall defending concepts, and that probably stems of where my DNA probably lies into the game. But I'm never too worried about how we're going to get scored on, and obviously we have throughout the conference year as well. But I think that we rely on that first and foremost, our defending, our organization. And that also stems our attack. Where we're going to win the ball determines where we're going to start our attack, from. And this group kind of has a great sense of belief in what they're doing together and individually, and believe kind of was our mantra last year and continues into this year as well. Of any given moment, anybody has the opportunity to win a game, and kind of love as the game drives on and the pressure increases and it's still 0-0, their intensity almost increases rather than letting that pressure bog them down. So I think that that's a really amazing trait that this group has.
And from an outsider's perspective, it looks like the highlight of the season is the win over Augie. It's the first time you guys beat the Vikings since your first year as the head coach. So what was that like, getting the monkey off your back and beating the Vikings?
It was a really significant win just in terms of being able to look at big picture at the end of the year in terms if there's any tiebreaker or anything like that. But I think it was extremely just exciting to be able to be, that was the day that we inducted our 2007 group into the Hall of Fame, and they were there, and getting to honor them and to be able to play with, that pride to showcase to them that, hey, the program's still in a really great place, and we're so thankful for what they've provided in our history. So, historic, you could say. It was definitely an exciting, fun opportunity, but I think to be able to do that in front of that group is what made it so special.
That's awesome. And, the schedule of soccer is very interesting at this level, that Friday and Sunday over and over again. I mean, these players are giving up their weekends essentially the whole season. So, what's that like for the players to go through that kind of grind?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for us is we are a team that's on the outskirts of the conference. So our travel schedule is always more significant than anyone else, probably with the exception of Minot. So that becomes harder versus the interior, like NSIC schools that get to maybe return to their home or their dorm bed on a Friday evening, practice at their home site and drive day of. So keeping kind of a homey camaraderie environment when we're on the weekend. Like this last weekend, we had 3 local families like host us for team dinners, and being able to have that type of environment for the group is kind of essential for their well-being. And just since we spend so much time on the road, so it's can be a brutal schedule, but we're really, really fortunate to be able to end this year with 3 home matches before, hopefully, and going into postseason play.
And how important is that home field advantage in a conference like the Northern Sun? It's like a very close, competitive conference.
Yeah, I think everyone is very protective of their home space, right? Like, this is where we showcase our best self and takes a lot of pride in who their identity is when they play at home. And I know that that's something that we talk about, is when we're at the bowl, we want to showcase this bleed blue spirit that is bringing out, the Marauders, the sacrifice of even what our Benedictine sisters did to provide the opportunity for the education, here at the University of Mary and start Mary College. So I just think that there's just so much more pride and identification when you play at your home soil, and wanting to protect that and really value those that come out to cheer us on. And so I think that will really help guide us into these last 3 remaining matches.
That's fun. Yeah. And the way I like to end these is, how can people support your program?
People can support our program by following us on social media, coming out to our home games. We play this Friday at 1 o'clock against Wayne State, Sunday at 1 o'clock against University of Sioux Falls, and then we end the regular season, November 7th against Northern State at 5. We love the support. We love just the reaching out of young kids, girls, boys, being able to come down, post-game to give our team high fives. And just that recognition and promotion of the game is something that we also want to model as a program into our community. And I think that those are great outreaches for us. Come watch us play, follow us on social media. And if you see a player in the community, recognizing them, that would be wonderful as well.
Appreciate the time, Sarah, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much.
That was UMary Soccer head coach Sarah Cook. Make sure you support the Marauders this weekend. They are at home. They are the only UMary team at home this weekend, Friday at 1 and Sunday at 1 at the Bowl, for a couple of big games coming up for the Marauders. Tune in every Wednesday to our social media channels for a new episode of the UMary Coaches Show. You can find those links at goumary.com. Thanks for listening, and go Marauders.